Let's get to Liverpool now. And Sky Germany reporting forward Roberto Firmino is leaning towards signing a new contract extension with Liverpool. Discussions have been ongoing around an extension until 2025, with his current deal expiring this summer. Harriet, how big of a loss would it be to Liverpool if Firmino was to leave?
Yeah, I think people will look at the team and think they've got Diogo Jota and Darwin Núñez now that can play in that position, and maybe there's a slight shift happening in the style. They don't want to play with a false nine. They want more of an out-and-out striker in Darwin Núñez, but I still think it would be a huge loss if Roberto Firmino did leave the club, especially off the back of losing Sadio Mane last season. It would represent a lot of change and a real shift that I don't think Liverpool could really afford at the moment. So I'd really like to see him stay. I mean, there's a lot of sentimental value in it as well, isn't there? Because he played obviously with Mane and Salah in that emphatic front three, and he's been such an integral part of everything that Jurgen Klopp has achieved at Liverpool, because he was there since the very start. So it would be a huge loss. I think he's still got a really big role to play, in particular because you think back to the start of the season before he got injured, he was the one that was really scoring the goals and really on form in that forward line for Liverpool. He's got such good close control, his pressing stats are incredible, so I think he can still do a job, and I'm a little bit surprised it's 2 years. I thought it would be a one-year extension, but as a leader figure as well, I can see why they'd like to keep him around in a couple of years. Does seem to make sense.
Zach, what would the future be without Roberto Firmino at Liverpool?
Yeah, I mean, I think things right now are a little bit tough, but I think that's a lot more to do with the midfield than the attack. I think they've kind of spent their money really well on the future of the attack. Getting in Gakpo, a guy who looks really exciting, had a really good World Cup. His numbers as well at his previous club were incredible. I mean, they've already got Jota in, who's come back from injury. Once he's back, that's a guy that can play in multiple positions too. Núñez is someone who I think has a huge future for Liverpool, especially working under Jurgen Klopp. That's a whole completely different attack, which could be spearheading Liverpool's for the next few years. Then you get onto the likes of Elliott, who I thought his ideal position is on that right wing as well. When the future comes to, or talks for Salah, we can start to see Elliott play a little bit more over there rather than in midfield. Carvalho, another one who features out on the left. I think there is a solid plan for that attack. Sure, maybe if an opportunity arises to go and get another attacker, kind of like how Gakpo did, the opportunity came about, then we might see another one added there. But with those players I've just mentioned, I think the future is really bright.
Well, yesterday we were taking a close look at Chelsea's squad depth. Let's have a look now how Liverpool shape up. We've got it just behind us here. Flex, is this a squad that is good enough to be back to competing for titles where Liverpool, the club, the fans, they all want to be?
In some areas, yes. In some areas, no. I think the one that stands out as needing the most surgery, I would say, is central midfield across the board. I'm looking at Naby Keita. To me, that just hasn't worked out. He hasn't lived up to the promise, and obviously a lot of problems with injuries. I think Henderson has given tremendous service to that club. Captain, tremendous leader, won everything there is to win at Liverpool, but is looking like he's going on the other side of reaching his peak. Milner, I think he's been kept on even just to try and steady the ship, hasn't he? You know, you're looking at Jones, Oxlade-Chamberlain, Thiago. There's been question marks about how is he with stylistically. Does he slow Liverpool down? But he's a fantastic player as well. Fabinho's not been at his best. I think at the top end of the pitch, like what Zach was saying, another player we didn't even mention was Luis Diaz as well.
Yeah.
You know, got him last January. Yeah. Forgot about him. Unbelievable player, fantastic. And it's really unfortunate for Liverpool that he got such a big injury, because the ready-made replacement for Mane. So I think in some areas, yes, in some areas, no, but definitely the major surgery needs to be done in the summer in midfield.
Yeah, I think they've been really proactive in both the defence and the forward line in bringing in players of a sort of younger age that they can mould to Jurgen Klopp's style of play, because it is really difficult to come in and play where you have to really cover a lot of distance and press really high, and they've done really well with that. But like you mentioned, that midfield is definitely the biggest worry for me, because they haven't got anyone in that sort of middle age, that 25, 26 coming into their prime. They've got players like Fabinho, Thiago, who are obviously incredible, but probably going a little bit past their peak now, and then they've got younger players having to rely on. You mentioned Elliott there. I think he's really impressive whenever he does play a part, but a little bit inexperienced. Carvalho as well, and Artemelo, who came in on loan on a bit of a panic. So it's interesting in that area of the park that it's been more reactive. What do we need on sort of deadline day, because we've got injuries, rather than proactive, and they need to be thinking about longer term targets who will be a success in the future. And I think that's why we've been linked so much to Bellingham.
Well, that's it. If you get someone like Jude Bellingham in, that's a guy who fits both of it, who is super young but actually has the experience of a 25-year-old, to be quite honest. He is. I mean, the idea that Jude Bellingham could join Liverpool and be there for over a decade. He's a guy that you could see maybe even taking the captain's armband, leading the side out. The experience that he already has in the Champions League at the World Cup at such a young age. He's the perfect midfielder, but then you do have the issue of competing with every other side in the world for him.
Also wouldn't solve all of Liverpool's problems, and there's been a tendency to think if you brought in one midfielder who could maybe play a defensive role and a more attacking role, that's all you need. I think if Liverpool are thinking in longer term, maybe this January they need to bring someone in who can be a bit of a backup in the number 6 defensive midfielder role, and then in the summer looking for someone like Bellingham who can really bring that spark. Because if you're watching Liverpool at the moment, you just see their midfield being played through far too easily. It takes one pass really, and Chelsea will be looking at that at the weekend and thinking, where can they exploit those areas and where can they find those gaps? Because too many teams have been finding those gaps far too easily in recent weeks.
Flex, when we look at the entire Liverpool squad, we look at the depth that they've actually got. When you compare it to the likes of what Manchester United are building, when you look at the amount of money that Chelsea have spent, and of course what Manchester City have got as well, do you think that Liverpool possibly, without doing any more business this window, without maybe bringing in primary targets in the summer, actually that could be an issue and they could fall off the pace when it comes to other clubs?
It could be, because of the position they're in with injuries, and and the position that they're in with naturally reaching conclusions and ceilings with players that have reached their peak. They're kind of at the end of that cycle where they need to start a new cycle. They need to stick with Klopp, give him more money, give him more time, which is most thing, and rebuild. I think the problem that Liverpool got is obviously, what are they, 9 points off the top 4? I can't remember exactly what it is.
10, yeah.
Is it 10? There's the extra point just there. Didn't mean it, I promise. But they're 10 points. They're 10
just
points.
with the needle.
They're 10 points off the top 4. And with Manchester United building, with Newcastle being there, not going away, it does make it really difficult for them to claw that back. So they might have to miss out on top 4 this year. Who knows? But I still wouldn't completely take Liverpool out of it, because once they get players back, they're capable as well of going on long runs. Although it looks beyond them now, with Jurgen Klopp, anything's possible.